Hello, this is Frederick from Detroit, Berlin, a channel about modular synthesizers and music production in general. I'm going to talk about the Perkons Voice from Erica Synths. I have a Perkons HD-01 and I truly like this drum machine so much. It's perfect for industrial music. It has a nice sequencer. It sounds great. It is digital but combined with analog drive, a filter, a bucket brigade device, so a delay. I adore this machine. I also did some videos on it. I was really interested in the Perkons Voice because I have those voices in my Perkons HD-01 drum machine. But I thought it would be very interesting to combine it and see what are the advantages of the modular drum voice, the Perkons Voice, and what are the advantages of the full-on drum machine that the Perkons HD is. So I just showed two live jams. That first patch, I have a bunch of sequencers that are sequencing the CV inputs from the Perkons Voice, also triggering it from a trigger sequencer and sending the Perkons Voice through a wave multiplier and a distortion effect. Then it goes into the Moog matriarch, which I just use as a mixer and as an output, and I add a little bit of delay from time to time, but most of the jam was just using the matriarch as a mixer. And I also had the Perkons HD running along, so it's a little bit of a jam between the Perkons HD and the Perkons Voice. I have the sequencer controller also randomly from time to time changing the last step of the sequence so that it gets more organic and it's not like just a 16-step loop or an 8-step loop, and that makes it really fun to play with. I also was tweaking those steps that are sending CV to the Perkons Voice, and what that is doing, that is selecting saved patches on the Perkons Voice. You don't have one kick going all the time in a particular rhythm, but this is changing all the time between the kick, snare, hi-hat, sounds of percussion. It creates a very interesting loop that way. And what's great about the Perkons Voice is that you can put it polyphonically. You have 4-voice polyphony. Of course, you have one trigger, so you just can trigger one sound or one sound, then another sound, then another sound, then another sound, and after that last sound has played, it cuts off when the 5th sound is triggered, if that makes any sense. You can also put it monophonic, where you have the first sound like a long drum bass, and when the second sound kicks in, maybe a drum bass, then the first cuts off. So it stays more clean this way. If you have something with a lot of harmonics, then layering those sounds by choosing the polyphonic mode can be a little bit much sometimes. So that's really interesting that it can do that, because on the Perkons HD you have 4 voices with different algorithms. We will have a look into the algorithms and such later. So that was more or less the first jam I did. I had a second jam, short jam, in which I controlled the patches with the keyboard of the Moog matriarch. The first key is the first patch, the 44th key is the 44th patch. You can set it up in the Perkons Voice. It is, in my opinion, very not only user-friendly, but also can do a lot of settings that can change the way you interact with the module and the feedback it gives you, whether it be visual or the way it works. More on that later. Changing the voices with my matriarch keyboard, and the sequencer is triggering the Perkons Voice, and with the mod wheel I'm lengthening the decay of the Perkons Voice, and sometimes I also press the data button, which makes it go into polyphonic mode or monophonic mode. So when the jam gets like really full at times with sounds from the Perkons Voice, that's mostly because I press that button to make it polyphonic, and the sounds begin to overlap each other and you create this dense atmosphere. It's a really useful drum voice. So I show you a short example of what I mean with only the Perkons Voice running. So we start the sequence. Now the kick is running because it's the first patch. Different kick, another kick, another sound, and I'm controlling it with the matriarch keyboard. You can also watch on the module itself, it goes to patch 8. Monophonic, so it stays pretty clean. It cuts the previous voice. Polyphonic mode. With a long decay, it's really noticeable. Okay, so this voice, it's every time it gets triggered, it stays clean, and now it kind of overlaps, which creates really nice effects. Truly amazing module. Let's just go over all the ins and outs, buttons, knobs. Let's take a look at the Perkons Voice. We have different buttons. You got the algorithm button, in which you can select different algorithms. You have the patch button, which are saved patches, and you can modulate these patches by putting in some CV. You have the filter button. You can select whether it be a bandpass, a high pass or a low pass filter. And you have a trigger button where you can trigger the module manually. Then you have all the knobs. You have an encoder which you can press. It's the data knob. You can press this one to select. You can go into the menu. When you press both algorithm and patch, you can go into the menu and you can do various settings. There you can choose whether it selects a voice automatically when you rotate the encoder button, or you need to rotate it and then confirm by pressing it, and you go out of the menu by clicking algorithm or patch. Then you get all these knobs, the data knob, the tune, decay and drive knobs, which are obviously controlling the tune, so the frequency of the voice, the decay, how long it decays, the drive, how much drive, parameter 1 and parameter 2, which is dependent on which algorithm is selected. Then you have the cutoff knob. It just works as a normal filter, but it doesn't really have resonance. It's more like kind of a way to, I I presume, EQ the module. If you want less low end, you put it on high pass. When it's too brittle, too harsh, you can put it on low pass and band pass if you need to. Then you got all the inputs. Trigger input is obviously to trigger the module. If you send trigger, it's as if you press the manual trigger button. It's right above. Tune CV, you can sequence the frequency of the voice by putting something in tune CV, and the knobs become offsets. So if the tune knob is all the way down and you don't send any control voltage, it's at this pitch and it raises the pitch. For instance, 1 volt, it goes an octave higher from the position that the knob is. The knobs become offsets. You have the decay, the drive and the patch CV. The patch CV you can via control voltage select which patch is running. The only thing I think is a little bit disappointing is that you can't really select the algorithm by control voltage. What would be really nice, and I assume they could do it in firmware, that is that the patch CV that you can select between it affecting the patch and it affecting the algorithm. So in practice that would mean you could create any sound, any patch you want on the fly by sending it control voltages. So that would be extremely useful, so that you could change between patch CV and algo CV. That would be something I would truly adore this module having. It doesn't yet, but who knows. You got the accent, which makes it 2 dB louder when you send a trigger. When the module gets triggered and then it gets accented. You got P1, P2 and C off CV. That means parameter 1 and 2 and cutoff. And then you got the output. The output, I was routing it through the wave multiplier and distortion. This voice sounds pretty clean if you want it to. We can go over some settings on this module and you can see what it can do. Okay, let's take a look at the sounds, the algorithms. What I'm doing now, I'm triggering it by pressing a key from the matriarch. I'm also sending, let's see, tune CV to the module, and then it's going out of the module just clean directly from the Perkons Voice. So let's see, you have the algorithm, you have algorithm A1 and the decay knob, the drive is all the way up, the cutoff, but now it's pretty clean, parameter 1. Get really bright, so you can tweak it by the cutoff. Now it's bandpass. Parameter 2. And what is cool, that is that you can of course modulate it. So when we take kind of a complex envelope generator and you put it in, let's take decay, and sometimes you get a long decay, sometimes a short one. You can also, of course, see, now it's mono. You can modulate it. That's the most important point. And with the Perkons HD you can also modulate it with an LFO that's inside of the drum machine, and you have all these grooves that you can assign, so kind of a similar modulation option, but it's all in the drum machine. And here, if you have a big modular system or a small one, if you have something that can modulate, yeah, you can very easily and very controllable modulate every parameter on the Perkons Voice. The voices are like in the Perkons HD, they sound pretty similar because the algorithms are similar. Of course, in the Perkons HD, it is a different audio path than the Perkons Voice. You send it through your modular system, and of course, it has nuances that are a little bit different in a way that I think that not only the sound, because it's pretty similar with nuances, not only the sound, but especially the way you interact with the module. It is so much different from the Perkons HD that if you love the Perkons HD and its sound, even if you're not that fond of the way it sounds, this module, you can put it through various different other modules that totally change the sound if you want to. You can distort the F out of it. For industrial music, for experimental music, even for soundscapes, if you turn the decay all the way up, you get an oscillator. It is an oscillator, and I selected the C1 algorithm because it's like a wavetable. So you get these kind of sounds out of a drum voice. I think this is amazing. I tuned it together with my matriarch, so I'm adding one oscillator from the matriarch. Can also tweak it maybe a little bit. Using the filter from the matriarch. Look at this sound. This is without a matriarch voice. This is a filter from the Moog and the Perkons Voice. This is truly amazing. Look at this. And because it's a eurorack voice, it's so easy to implement in a patch if you have already some eurorack. If you have any other voice and you can patch it in there, you can do amazing things. The only thing you actually need is something, no, you don't need it, you can also do it manually, but having a modulator, which is pretty much in every small eurorack system, you should have a modulator in there. You control some of those parameters, whether it be the wave folding or wave selecting, like in this patch. You put the decay all the way up and you have an oscillator that is perfectly following the 1 volt per octave. So that alone, let's put it polyphonically. You can do chords. Can actually do chords. It's really nice. Of course, a little bit of delay always works. Okay, so let's look at some other algorithms. A snare, noise, hi-hat like. I would recommend downloading the manual, going through every kind of drum that's in there. There are quite a lot different engines and algorithms. Everything that's in the Perkons HD is pretty much in here. Even more, I think. Noise, digital noise. Really nasty. Let's see what we can do with this. Sounds like a computer is dying, but sounds really cool. This sounds really bit crushed. And of course, if it's not an engine, but more like a sample, it will just loop. So if it's a sampled hi-hat, for instance, it will, when you put the decay all the way up, it will just start looping. I also think with those wave shapes that are in there, those wave tables, of course, they're really short samples that are looping and you can scan through them. So it's an amazing voice, in my opinion. This is the last algorithm, is a sample player. You have 3 samples and you can, if you take out the module and you connect it via USB-C to your computer, you can upload 3 sounds of your own. They need to be mono, they can't be 256 kilobytes or bigger, they need to be smaller. You can upload them. If you upload big samples, then you need to do it one at a time, and then you can choose via the menu if you want to play the samples you uploaded into the voice or the factory samples. I think this is an amazing module. The magic begins to happen when you're sequencing it and you're changing the patches and the parameters on the fly, then it really shines. If you have a Perkons HD that you truly love and you also have eurorack modular gear, then I think it's a no-brainer. If you don't have the Perkons and you have modular gear, I think this is an amazing module to have in your system. It can be an oscillator, it can be more than one drum voice because you can sequence it and put it polyphonically. Then you have kind of 4 drum voices that can play more or less on top of each other. So amazing module, I would highly recommend it. Patch CV / algorithm CV, I would truly love that it would be implemented. Don't know if it's possible, but it would be very useful, I think. Changing between patch and algorithm mode in the settings and then controlling which algorithm it is playing the moment you send a trigger and a CV voltage to that. That means you can configure every trigger as you want. Now you always start from a patch, a pre-saved patch, so yeah, it would be a nice option. You saw the first jams and it really works well together. Distorted, mangled, controlled via CVs and modulators and stuff. Truly great module, I highly recommend it. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. You can support us by subscribing, liking, especially commenting on the video. And yeah, if you like the Perkons sounds, and I used this in my first album I made with my industrial project. So if you want to check that out, I'm wearing a t-shirt now. It's called Darkvolt. You can find it on Spotify and on YouTube also, so please check that out if you're into that industrial sound. The Perkons HD did play a big part. It kind of glued it together because I bought it while the album was almost finished, and then I implemented some of the sounds and it really came together that way. So yeah, please have a look at it. Also, please support Erica Synths. They make such beautiful designed modules. They have a lot of drum voices. They're also doing these reissues from Hex Inverter, which looks really nice. I have in my performance modular some Hex Inverter modules. Really nice analog modules, combine extremely well with everything Erica Synths has out there. The hi-hats, the cymbals, and they sound truly great, really 909-ish and beyond. And this Perkons Voice is an amazing gift that, yeah, you are able to tap into the sound of the Perkons without needing to buy a full Perkons. But then again, the Perkons itself is an amazing drum machine. It's more than only 4 voices combined and a little sequencer. It's more than the sum of that. It's a tool. It's an amazing product that feels great. Mine is the original one. I don't know if it's one of the first, but it was a pretty early model. And it looks nice. It feels amazing. It sounds nice, and it's such a joy to play. It's totally different from a eurorack system. These are tiny-ish knobs. The spacing of the knobs is, in my opinion, really nice. You can put your fingers in between. Some modules it's a disaster, but from Erica Synths I must say they really know how to space and build a module like this. The only thing I would say, it's a little bit difficult to press the trigger button because it's so small, but then again, normally if you don't have a trigger in there, you can really easily push it. If you have also a trigger going in, yeah, then it's kind of difficult to reach, but it's on there. I can't imagine where they could put it differently without sacrificing another CV input or making it difficult. Maybe in between those and a bigger button, that would maybe be possible, but then again, that's so much nitpicking. You actually don't need a trigger button because normally a drum voice you will trigger with something. You can trigger with a gate, you can trigger it any way you want. It's there, it's really useful. I would say support them, they make great stuff, and I would like to say thank you for watching and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.